system in Queensbury is in good shape, but there's room for improvement. That's not always the case when I get invited into a community, and sometimes things are falling down, and it's a real urgent need to fix what's happening, and people's lives are at stake. In Queensbury, you're running a good system, but there is room to improve. You have advanced life support, so the paramedic level or advanced EMT level of service available generally 24 hours a day throughout the town. You have one ALS crew plus additional volunteers on duty in each district at all times. On average, there's about 10.5 calls per day in Queensbury. That number has dropped in 2020, but when we look over a long-term average, that's about a little over 10 calls a day. The majority of them, 64% of them, are in the West Glens Falls area. Bay Ridge has the next highest number at 28%, and North Queensbury only has about 4% of the calls in the town of Queensbury. The tax funding for the EMS system, as you're well aware at the town board level, has been growing steadily over the last 10 years and is slated, as I understand, in the 21 budget to be just over $1 million. The town has received, on average, about $1.17 million in billing revenue over the last 3 years. Although that will be down in 2020 as there's been a drop in the call volume. This is something that has been seen across EMS across the country, and Queensbury is not alone. Just a real high-level overview of your service areas. So we start with North Queensbury, and what the purple shows is how the area that they can cover in a 5-minute drive from their station. So you see they're able to get most of their response area inside that 5 minutes. Same thing with Bay Ridge. Down here, this little orange amoeba is about that 5-minute drive time from their base. And they do, as you can see, some of that is into neighboring communities. And when we look at West Glens Falls, their station location, they cover this area within that 5-minute drive. And you can see it would also allow them to get into the city of Glens Falls in a 5-minute time frame reasonably well. We use 5 minutes as a guideline because the American Heart Association has a recommendation that you want to have somebody on scene doing CPR and a defibrillator present, ideally in at least 8 minutes from the time of a call. So what's 5 minutes drive time have to do? There's usually about a 1 minute, 1.5 minute time processing at the 911 center, and it takes you about a 1.5 minutes to get from where you are in the station to the vehicle and the vehicle rolling. So this is your area that you have that best coverage in. As we talked about the funding that comes from the town, and the town really is the reservoir for the funding. You receive it both from the taxes and from the billing services, and then you give it out to the services. And that 1.7 million in contracts goes to the 3 ambulances, 52% to West Glens Falls, 29% to Bay Ridge, and 19% to North Queensbury. The value of these contracts has been climbing year over year. When we look at the town of Queensbury, as it is in much of upstate New York, the Queensbury residents are aging. And what this presents as a challenge for EMS is twofold. One, if the town's population remains level or slowly declines, we have this increase in call volume. Older people use EMS at a much higher rate than younger people. And when you have a basis of your service that relies on volunteers, if your population that you draw those volunteers from ages, you have fewer people who are physically able to do the volunteering. So you begin to have that pinch that you may not have enough volunteers, and you have that call volume going up, so there's a greater demand for career paid staff. The capital needs for the buildings, vehicles, medical equipment are being met by the 3 agencies. They have what they need to do their job. However, each of these agencies identify that there's a need for additional paid staff, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few slides. This was the current EMS contract funding when we started the study at the end of 2019. As you see, it added up to that 1.77 million. It has remained essentially level in 2020 and 21, a little bit of an increase, but not the size of the increases we saw in the years before. I don't have the precise number, so I wasn't able to update this graph, but that's my understanding as to what's been going on with the contracts. I want to focus on the workforce for the next couple of slides. The number of volunteers are reportedly holding level at each organization, and this should be a point of pride. Volunteerism is on decline across the country in the world of EMS. So if you're able to hold level, even if you're not getting quite as many number of hours out of them, or they're not as active as they used to be, being able to keep that number of people available is very important. But there is that need for paid staff to ensure that calls are answered. In particular, the call volume happens in the middle of the day. That's for all three of the agencies. The peak call volume is between about 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., and that's when most people are at work. We need to be able to have that career staff available to handle those calls. The total workforce, and this includes the volunteers and the career staff, about 35% are in their 20s. This is a strong foundation for the future EMS service, but you need to be able to sustain them. They need to have a career path, and even volunteers are seeking a career path. They're looking for greater responsibility and recognition as they remain in the department. Now, one of the things that we found is the paid staff receive a low wage compared to the public employees in the town of Queensbury. They are not allowed to receive paid time off under the town contracts, and their wage barely meets the standard of living for most household situations. Go into this in a little bit more detail in the report, and you can take a look at that. What we're trying to get across here is that the EMTs are providing an essential role, but they are not well paid. And what that leads to is a churn in the workforce. People are going to look for other work. They'll leave their employer in the Queensbury area and work in another community that pays better. You're not getting the long-term dedication out of these employees because they're not well paid. Similarly, you're having people who are working when they're sick, and that's not something that we want if we can avoid it. Taking a look at the size of the workforce, this is the three agencies, Bay Ridge, North Queensbury, and West Glens Falls, and the number of volunteers that they have. And again, this was a snapshot in time early in 2020, and the number of volunteers they had. Bay Ridge had the largest number of volunteers that were uncertified, as well as volunteer EMTs. West Glens Falls had the largest number of volunteer and advanced life support providers. And you'll notice contract staffing, ALS and EMT, there is some overlap. There were, in this number, were some people who were both volunteer and contract staffed. And that's the interpretation that was used and is still being used, is that if you're drawing your paycheck from an outside organization, that you can also be the volunteer there. But just gives you an idea of the numbers that are available. And North Queensbury heavily relies on their contract staffing to ensure that they're able to get an ambulance on the road and responding to the emergencies when they occur. The majority of the contract staff for Bay Ridge and paid staff for West Glens Falls are also volunteers for those organizations. For North Queensbury, one of the volunteers is also an employee for the staffing agency. And one of the other things that's important to understand is your key operational positions for day-to-day management at Bay Ridge and West Glens Falls are handled by volunteers. These are the people who are managing the schedules, ensuring that the financial obligations are being met, dealing with the budget, dealing with the equipment, the maintenance issues. Much of that work is being handled by volunteers right now. And with North Queensbury, it's part of a contract for management services from their staffing contract, their staffing company, that ensures that they're having some of that work done by an outsider who is able to dedicate some more time to it. One of the challenges we had in the study was obtaining accurate and up-to-date data. Essential operational questions such as how many EMS calls occur in the town and what agencies cover them, we were not able to confidently and accurately answer those questions using the traditional data gathering we had available. And this was not just at the agency level. The county 911 system gathers an awful lot of this data, but they were unable to share that data back to us. It wasn't that they didn't have permission; they're just not able to get it out of their system. They don't know how to run the reports necessary to help us understand how the responses work in the town of Queensbury. So there were some open questions about how many calls occur in Queensbury, and how many were handled by the agencies based in Queensbury versus how many relied on mutual aid coming into the town to help cover those calls. One of the things we wanted to talk about is the travel time, and we have a map coming up that will show you where all the calls are that occur in Queensbury. It's difficult the size of the screen to be able to show all the overlaps that occur. But we wanted to see how long does it take, or how many calls occur within this 10-minute drive time window, travel time window. And West Glens Falls and Bay Ridge, about 80% of their calls occur within that. For North Queensbury, it was 68%. But it's worth noting that a number of these North Queensbury calls that are outside that 10-minute drive time window actually are not occurring in the town of Queensbury. They're occurring in mutual aid out into one of the neighboring towns. In 2018, which was the year we were able to get the best data on calls, it appeared that the three agencies responded to 95% of the calls in the town. So they were handling all but 5% of the calls in the town, which is a very good standard and something that, is showing the cooperation, but that's not necessarily the calls in their own district. Oh, so Bay Ridge was frequently responding into West Glens Falls, and a little bit less frequently, West Glens Falls was backing up Bay Ridge. The contracts between the town and the agencies do not specify any performance criteria. It doesn't include any indemnification clauses, insurance requirements, although I know that you provide some of the workers' comps for them, or operational reporting mandates. This is kind of a best practice for a town. You're giving a fair amount of money to these agencies to provide you a service. It's reasonable in return to ask for data to show that you're getting the service that you're asking for, to ask them to show the response rates, the times that they're available, the number of times that they have to turn to another community to answer the call for them. So this is all, we'll get into this detail in just a little bit about some of the recommendations, but it was something that we identified is that there's not that performance contract that you have. This map shows the calls that occurred. These were the 2019 calls for service in the town, and we were able to get this geopositioning data. But I just want to see if I can draw for a second here. The colors of the dots indicate which agency responded. So these green dots are agencies, are calls that West Glens Falls handle. And this is the West Glens Falls district, and you begin to see the number of times that a Bay Ridge crew handled a call in West Glens Falls. You also begin to pick up the number of calls that were handled mutual aid. So these are going into Lake Luzerne, and these are going actually out of the county. And up here, North Queensbury does a number of calls into Lake George, and Pilot Knob is actually up off of the map. But this is the different coloring of the calls, lets you know that North Queensbury doesn't come mutual aid into Bay Ridge very often. But they do, on occasion, end up responding into West Glens Falls. And that's because West Glens Falls has that higher call volume. 60% of the calls occur there. And we have maps with a little bit greater resolution available inside in the report that focuses on each one of the districts. So you can zoom in and see who's handling or what's happening in each one of the districts. Based on those key findings, we identified some areas, some things to think about for structural change. One thing that you can do is keep the status quo. Don't change from how you're operating with your 3 different agencies. We always talk about that in the report. What are the challenges that you're going to face there? The management of running an EMS organization isn't going to get any easier. The recruiting and training of both volunteer and career staff are going to, the challenges we anticipate going up. Reimbursement rates are going to go down, so your margins are going to drop. So it's going to continue to be a challenge if you maintain that status quo of getting the good operations to cover the town. The biggest change that we can think of is moving to a single agency. We feel that there's a great opportunity for improving the services and providing value to the residents. I don't know that you'll see a lot of cost savings, but I think what you'll be able to do for the dollars that you're spending, get a better service, one that you can focus, have a little bit better professional management and performance, be able to share those resources across the whole town, position as needed based on call volume, and redirect resources as needed. So that's something that we would encourage. We give some more bullet points as to the value behind that in the report. One of the other changes that could occur is unite North Queensbury and Bay Ridge. Past experience in covering the broad area, we know this had to happen for roughly a year, not too long ago, and the service was able to be met. You could also look at combining West Glens Falls and Bay Ridge. Bay Ridge, by the nature of being in the middle, gets involved anytime you begin to talk about merging, consolidating an organization. One of the other suggestions we have is adjust the borders of the districts. In particular, moving the line between Bay Ridge and West Glen Falls could equalize the call volume. The district borders have been in place since the early 1950s, based on the borders of the fire protection districts. And things have changed just a little bit in the town of Queensbury during that time. So the suggestion, the map that we initially drew up is taking this area that we have this hash mark, and that area currently belongs to West Glens Falls. And if that area of responsibilities was shifted to Bay Ridge, the response times really wouldn't change very much. They're both on the edge of that 5-minute drive time for those 2 stations. And for some of the addresses, they would become a little bit closer, and a couple would get a little bit further, but the response times would still be well within the standard for the town. And if you change the calls in this area from the one agency to the other, you balance out that workload between the 2 of them. So they would both end up at roughly 2,200 calls per year. You're shifting 900 calls from one to the other, from roughly 3,000 at West Glens Falls and 1,200 at Bay Ridge today. You would balance the 2 of them out at just about 2,200. That's an important step to consider if you're not doing other changes. This is because West Glens Falls is frequently running out of resources and turning to its neighbors to respond in on mutual aid. And if you balance this call volume to begin with, then they're going to be less likely to run out of those resources, and Bay Ridge is going to have a better understanding of what calls going to come in when and where, and you won't have them leapfrogging further into the West Glens Falls district to pick up a call. They'll be doing the calls that are nearer to their district. So that's one of the suggestions that we had and have talked about with the advisory board. One of the concerns that came up during the interviews with the members of the agencies was that they don't really understand how the money from the town comes to them, what the ratio is, how it gets divided up. And that was a recurring comment that we received. So one of the suggestions we had would be to establish a specific formula that the town would use to share the revenue to the agencies so that you're able to do a little bit more long-term planning. So we grabbed some data about what's going on right now. So that current funding share, Bay Ridge is at 29%, North Queensbury at 20 or 19, and West Glens Falls at 52. When we look at the call volume, West Glens Falls leads actually in every category of call volume, taxable assessed value, the population estimate, which I will get to in a second, and the land area. So, they would likely be the ones that would continue to receive the largest amount of funding. How do you balance between Bay Ridge and North Queensbury? You want to consider call volume, but land area is also important because they have a more spread out area, a larger geography to cover. So the suggestion would be to have a mix where you're considering call volume and land area. The reason not to get into the population estimate is we know that it's somewhat flawed because of the seasonal component of population in Queensbury. People come in the winter, they come in the summer, your shoulder seasons, the population is a little bit lower. So you need to, you don't want to go into that just based on the population estimate. And honestly, the call volume is a good proxy for that, that population and how it spreads out. And you'll see Bay Ridges is actually going up, and that will be influenced by the addition of independent living and assisted living facilities. And I know there's a couple that are being considered in the town. So where those occur, you want to make sure you have the funding to match. Taxable assessed value is obviously how the property taxes are raised, and we wanted to include this. There was some question as to how the money is being raised today, how the split goes. People felt that they were getting funded unfairly, and in reality, West Glens Falls would have the argument that they're not receiving their share, and that it's being redistributed away from that taxable assessed value area. We also had some of these operational changes. So the term structural change had to do with that you would be changing the structure of the organizations themselves and the overall design of the EMS system. These are more operational changes. They don't need to have as big a effort to make these changes. So it would be something that's relatively easy to allow for the full-time receive benefits, and also to increase their wages. The report shows some of the wages that are being paid to other EMTs in the community and shows where you are, where you fall on that, as well as other professions, as to how you can allow the EMT wage to grow a little bit. Professional management of EMS organizations. As I mentioned, a lot of the decisions are being run and driven by volunteers, particularly at Bay Ridge and West Glens Falls. Not that the decisions are not good decisions, there's just a lot of them. There's a big burden. We talked to some of the people who are in these positions today. They've been involved in making these decisions for a number of years, and they might be willing to take some help. Someone who can help with some of the day-to-day management and minutia that you need to run an organization where you have a career staff as well as volunteers, managing some of that scheduling, looking at that call volume, providing quality assurance on a front line, just review of the charts, or talking with the calls, talking about the calls right after they happen. Adding ambulance hours is key. This is a strong recommendation that there are not enough unit hours or ambulance hours available in the town of Queensbury right now. As I mentioned at the top, you have 3 ambulances on duty, essentially 24/7 is how the funding is supported. Some of that requires volunteers to be available to get that ambulance in that community. But you really should consider adding another ambulance during the peak hours of the day, even if it were 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. shift. That one additional ambulance is going to prevent and reduce the amount of mutual aid that you have. When you are a fee-for-service agency, like all 3 of your agencies are, when you have a call that goes mutual aid to your neighbor, that's lost revenue. And there's enough lost revenue that we believe occurring during those daytime hours that adding that additional crew will help you capture that revenue and would begin to pay for itself. So we think that's an important recommendation. It might not have to occur on the weekends. You could focus more on the weekdays, but that's something to consider. Mandate and support the performance standards. As we mentioned, there are no written standards in your contracts with the agencies, and having a performance standard requiring that they meet a certain percentage of calls that they can cover, that they have a response time, and not every call is created equal. I think that's important to know with response times. A cardiac arrest and a infected toenail have different priorities, and they both may need an ambulance to respond, but one needs it immediate and the other one it can be delayed. So you want to judge your response times really on just the high priority calls. If you handle those high priority calls in a timely manner, the other calls will fall into line. Seek a legal opinion on the role of volunteer and career staffing. This is something we identified that the wearing of 2 hats might be problematic in some interpretations of labor law. I am not an attorney, so I just encourage that be done to make sure that you're following the proper labor laws about a person who is a volunteer. Can they, what roles can they have at an agency? Can they be paid? What responsibilities can they be paid for? Take a look at the clinical care that's currently done at a regional level. There's no reason with the electronic charting that you have that you don't begin to look at it on an agency level. And some of those key markers for success are not high bars that you need to attain. Things like making sure a person with chest pain is getting an aspirin, and making sure that your scene times on trauma are at a limited time, that a person who might be having a stroke is getting triaged to the right hospital. Those are all decisions that improve the quality of life for your patients, and you can measure off of your patient care reporting. System status management is a term that can also be used as a dynamic deployment of resources. So you have 3 ambulances on duty. They're each stationed at their individual stations. If the ambulance at the south and West Glens Falls goes out on a call, and the next nearest ambulance is in Bay Ridge, and 20 minutes later that ambulance goes out on a call, the only ambulance available in your town is up in North Queensbury. You should consider having that shift down to the Bay Ridge area, so when a call comes in, you're able to cover it with your own resources. Looking at the training, there is good training that occurs. There's a lot of workshops that happen, although some of it's had to be curtailed this year as you're dealing with the pandemic. But that's something to always look at improving, particularly to train at high risk, low frequency events, and consider seeking high fidelity simulation. Some of these patient simulators can really help a new provider or a seasoned provider gain confidence working on skills. And perhaps a town fuel system. I know there's not that many resources available, but you can get to them, and that allows some savings for their community. Okay. So what were the next steps that we're suggesting at this stage? You've had a study team. Now let's shift gears and get an implementation team. We're presenting this report, and we want to make sure that people feel comfortable and confident in moving forward with it. We continue these lines of communication. Work with the EMS agencies to determine feasibility and prioritize among the options. We've identified some of the higher priority ones from the outsider's perspective, the pay rate and benefits, the ambulance hours, looking at professional management, performance standards, and that the definition of the career and volunteer roles we would view as being your top priorities. And you want to create a reporting and accountability structure. Town board is going to be invested in this process. You have been invested in EMS for a number of years with funding both the property tax and working as the billing agent or with a billing agent for the organizations. You are clearly invested. You want to make sure that as you're working with those investments, with those agencies, that you're getting reports. What's the progress? How often have you met? What's the attendance been like? Is one of the agencies not participating as much as they used to? Why is that? Is there some barrier that you can try and help work for? Because you want to support the change. The foundation of EMS in Queensbury, you have dedicated people, both career and volunteer. You have the right pieces of equipment. You have the good ambulances. You have the right medical equipment available. You have stations that are not falling down. You have the ability to reorganize this and really create a great system for the residents of Queensbury. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because those are my slides for the night.
Get the light. Thank you, Peter. Okay, Paul. Well, thank you very, very much for your presentation. It was excellent. It was very informative. And like I said, well, we're going to have a workshop on this next Monday, and I don't know if you want to or can be part of that. I can certainly invite you if you want to be a part of that. But it's
We're talking at the same time frame in the evening. Yes, I'd be willing to be a part of it. I'm available.
Yes, we are. Yeah, because we just want to hear some thoughts from our EMS people as a town board. And the town board may have questions. And so it's just to get a little bit more familiar with your study, a little bit more familiar with what our EMS people are thinking about where we should go with the town. But I think you've given us some good directions, certainly a lot to think about, and deeply appreciate it, Paul. Any questions from the town board? Compelling, because we are meeting next Monday to discuss this. We okay for now? Okay, Paul. Before you leave, though, if you'll hand over the host back to me, please.
I'm working on it.
All right.
Everything's under the more. I'm not seeing.
Yeah, usually it crops up when you highlight your name. It should give you those options. Okay? And you'll see mute, and you'll see more. And under the more,
Name myself.
Okay. All right, did you find it?
Yeah, I had to reverse it to make you the host. It wasn't something I could do.
Oh, okay.
I'll be the host.
Yes, I'm back on.
Okay,
All right, thank you, Paul.
thank you. Good evening.
Yes, please, thank you. All right. Well, we're back, and like I said, it was a very good presentation. We're going to move on to the other items in the agenda, and the next item on the agenda is to consider some things as a local Board of Health. So do I hear a motion to enter in the Queensbury Local Board of Health, please?
I'll make that motion.
All right, Councilperson McGee.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilperson Ferrone. All those in favor of moving into the Queensbury Local Board of Health, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Any nays? No? The ayes are unanimous. We're now in the Local Board of Health. So, Karen, would you please introduce the first item?
Sure. It's the continuation of the public hearing sewage disposal variance application of Chris Abley, Rockhurst LLC.
All right. That application has been withdrawn. So I will close the public hearing and we'll move on. 1.2.
Public hearing sewage disposal variance application of Dave Barlow.
Okay. Thank you. Dave Barlow lives, has a residence that's just off the Warner Bay Inlet, off of 9L, up by Pilot Knob. And this particular residence would like to install two 1,500-gallon capacity holding tanks. The holding tanks require a variance as well as located 4 foot from the structure instead of the required 10 foot. The property is 18 Ward Lane. And Tom Center is here tonight. If you introduce yourself for the record, Tom.
Good evening, Tom Center with Hutchins Engineering. As you said, Mr. Stroud, this is a septic variance to install two 1,500-gallon holding tanks to decommission the existing seepage pit, install the system, and tie it into the septic system underneath the structure. As you can see when you were out there, we have an issue with bedrock and where we're trying to locate it and also keep it 50 or 100 feet from the shoreline. So we're working in that area. That's why we needed the 4 feet of relief to place it in that location and get our proper cover over the top of the system. We'll also have a solenoid valve to shut off the water system connected with inside the building. So, per the town, per the council.
Excuse me, when you talk up there, could you please remove your mask?
Oh, okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now you touch, you're gonna have to clean them.
I got to clean it anyways. I'm used to that one. It's a pretty straightforward project. We also are looking for a 6-month extension for the property transfer law. The way this was, they had a certain amount of time, so that was included in the variance request. There's going to be a little bit of a delay in getting the plumbing hooked up. They'd like to do that in the spring, and I believe it was going to expire right around this week, and Dave asked us to include that in our variance request.
Okay, any questions for Tom? Tom Board? Seeing none, there's a public hearing on this tonight. Tom, if you'll stay there, let me see if there's any interest, and then I'll have you take a seat if there is, and then I may have you return to answer some of the concerns. Is there anybody in the public that has any questions or concerns they would like to share with the town board regarding this resolution approving sanitary sewage disposal variance for Dave Barlow at 18 Ward Lane? It's basically for a holding tank and a setback of the holding tank of 4 feet from the structure instead of the required 10 foot. All right, is there anybody who are participants with the webinar and Zoom webinar? Indicate by raising that little blue hand. Okay, anybody that's watching through YouTube, you're welcome to call in, area code 518-761-8225. And again, Peter, that number's up on your screen, right? Okay. All right. I'll close the public hearing. Town board have questions or want to entertain approving this, moving this forward?
I'll introduce.
All right, introduced by Councilperson Medevere, seconded by Councilperson Freer. A roll call vote on this, please, Karen?
Sure. Councilperson Freer?
Yes?
Brown?
Yes.
McGee? Yes. Stroud?
Yes.
Medevere?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Good luck. All right, the next application, if you'll introduce that for the public, please, Karen?
Sure. It's a public hearing, sewage disposal variance application of Michael Grasso.
Is there anybody, an agent here to speak for,
Same one.
Same one.
oh, Tom? Okay. So, Tom, this is a residence located on 23 Rappaport Drive. It's owned by Mike Grasso. And the applicant is applying to the local Board of Health for variances from Chapter 136 to install a replacement wastewater system with its septic tank. Now, I think some people misinterpreted this. They thought the infiltration field was the one getting the variances. It's the tank itself requesting the variances. The first variance that's being requested is 3 foot from the house instead of the required 10-foot setback, and 40 foot from the well instead of the required 50-foot setback. And again, and this has been designed for 3 bedrooms. I know the assessment says 4, but in reality, it's 3. Is that correct, Tom?
20 by 40. It would accommodate a 4-bedroom.
All right, so let me see what my note. See, the wastewater system design on the plan says 3-bedroom.
Yes, we did design it for a 3-bedroom.
So it's not 4-bedroom, and it's not designed for 4-bedroom. Let's make the record clear.
This one is not, correct.
All right. And because the assessment says 4-bedroom,
4-bedroom.
which is usually the other way around. So they're paying extra for the 4-bedroom. Usually what we see is 1 bedroom less than what the system is being designed for, and then we try and nail down how many bedrooms are really there, and it's usually more than the assessment. This is unusual that,
Would I have the ability to make it a 4-bedroom field? It wouldn't change much of the tank. The separation distance is the separation.
well, this application before us tonight is for a 3-bedroom, and you couldn't change that unless you came back before this board.
Okay.
So is the house 4 bedrooms or not?
It's 3-bedroom, system is designed for 3-bedroom.
And the assessment is
The
4
assessment says it's 4-bedroom, but we're getting testimony, it's only 3, and the system.
Well, I showed it as 4-bedroom. I believe that's what I was told. I might not have checked the assessed value, the assessment on the town, so.
Yeah, but the plans call for a 3-bedroom design.
Correct.
Okay? The other thing is, too, we got a, in reference to this, we have one, I'll make a note of this for the record. We got an email from Florence Connor, and she's referring to this, and she's worried about the contaminated well. I don't know if she understands that it's for the tank
Right.
and not for the infiltration bed that we're seeking the variance for.
Right.
But while I have your ear, Lake George, we're pretty sensitive about that. The algae blooms we've seen in the environs. Did you consider at all putting in a, 3-bedroom, it'd be a 450, a Claris Fusion 450? Pre-treatment?
It was a thought, and had we been closer to the level of the lake, had it not, we have a 12-foot elevation change between the shoreline and the bottom of the system. We're more than 100 feet back away from the shoreline, so we're not closer to that. So that's why we didn't look at that at the time.
All right, well, Kathy Bozzoni also gave me an email saying that, there's strong indicators that what is offshore from here may be indicators that the current system needs to be replaced. So that's a good thing that it's getting
Right.
replaced.
Yeah, we know it needs to be replaced. It's a seepage pit that's right in the location where we're looking to put the septic tank and the pump station.
Yeah.
We're asking for the variance because we're not sure where bedrock is and how close it is. We know it's in that area, so we were trying to look for the least amount of relief that we would need, but certainly when we get in and excavate it and open that area up, if we can get it further away, that's what our plan is to do.
Well, we like the pre-treatment, the enhanced pre-treatment systems, whether it's Claris Fusion or one of the others, are completely acceptable and they're fine. The Claris Fusion has an anaerobic aspect to it and everything else. It's a nice system, but we're not recommending it. We're just wondering if you considered anything like that. And you said you did, but because of the elevation, you didn't think it was
Once we got into the soils and we looked at, the
Okay.
material that was brought in.
All right, fair enough. Town board, questions? Well,
Tom, can you,
I'm still stuck on the bedrooms.
it's 3 bedrooms.
Well, that's the design is 3 bedrooms and
But it's a 4-bedroom home?
No,
he's
No,
saying that
it's
the town-
assessed as
the
4, but
town
it's
has
really
it
a
assessed
3.
as a 4-bedroom.
The town's
I'm going to have to
assessed-
clarify that. I think what I'd like to do, go ahead with the other question.
yeah, so my question was, why does it say that we should keep this 10 feet away from the structure? There must be an engineering reason why this code was designed that way. Do you know what it is?
That's normally if it has the way we look at it in Queensbury and other towns is when it has a full basement, in case there's a failure. It's just a standard that DOH has set from the beginning of time, that as long as I've been doing it, it has a 10-foot setback. This is actually, the building sitting on top of rock. It doesn't have a full basement underneath it. So we're really away from the side of the structure, not necessarily the basement of the structure.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions from the board?
Well, I think the question remains, how did the assessment turn into 4 bedrooms and now we're hearing it's only 3 bedrooms?
Well, that doesn't bother me as much as the reverse.
Well, but he's saying,
Right.
he's not sure it is 3 bedrooms.
You know what, based on your...
We asked at the site, when we did the site visit, is this 4 or 3 bedrooms? We were told it's 3 bedrooms. The plan, as it's designed, says 3 bedroom. What we're approving is 3 bedroom. If they want to make this facility 4 bedroom, they have to come back.
Yeah, no, that's not I think the question is,
Oh, the assessment makes mistakes. I mean, it's the world, it's the complex world of having 12,000 properties.
Yeah, you wouldn't be governed by the assessment, that's correct. And the plan does seem to clearly indicate three-bedroom residence.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we, if it's okay with the board, I'd like to table it and go back and discuss pre-treatment or an enhanced treatment absorption field with Mr. Grasso, and we'll clarify their issue with the 3 or 4 bedroom.
Yeah, I think Harrison's concern is that if it really is a 4-bedroom and we're only designing it for a
Right.
3-bedroom.
Right.
And it changes hands and the people,
No, I don't have a problem. This isn't something that we're planning on installing right away. It's not in use right now. It's not in failure. It's not an imminent issue. I have no problem tabling it and coming back and answering those questions, and also look at, the possibility of enhanced treatment, possibly would a Presby field, would a Presby system in the absorption field as opposed to a Claris down by the lake be something that would be more palatable to the board? That way, it's an enhanced treatment system. It's just occurring in the field.
All right. Well, if there's no rush on this, I'm sensing that the town board is okay, but I'm going to open the public hearing,
Yep.
and I'll leave the public hearing open, and we just won't act on it tonight.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tom, but stay around in case we do have public hearing questions. So the town board is okay? All right. Public hearing, is there anyone present who would like to speak to this application at this time? I'm going to leave the public hearing open. Nobody present? How about anybody on Zoom? Anybody watching YouTube? Yeah. All right, you're welcome to call in at area code 518-761-8225.
John, I just want to note that I do have 2 letters from Florence Connors. There's one that we received November 30th, and then one received December 7th. That will be on file in the town clerk's office regarding this.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, so we just won't act on it, and we'll see what happens. All right,
Thank
Tom,
you.
thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. So the public hearing is open. We'll move on. Next item is to set a public hearing. Karen, please.
Sure. Resolution setting public hearing on sewage disposal variance application of Robert Stevens.
All right, Robert Stevens at 128 Sunnyside North would like to install a new 4,000-gallon septic holding tank in lieu of a sewage disposal system on property at 128 Sunnyside North. This resolution is to set the public hearing for December 21st. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Freer, seconded by, I'm not sure if I caught it,
Councilperson Ferraro.
Councilperson Ferone. Roll call vote on setting the public hearing. The public hearing is being, will be December 21st, right here, same time.
Councilperson Ferrone?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Stroud?
Yes.
Medevere?
Yes.
And
All right.
Yes.
Public hearing on that set for December 21st. All right, so that's it for the local Board of Health. Motion to move out of the local Board of Health, please.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Ferone, seconded by Councilperson McGee. All those in favor of moving out of the local Board of Health, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, it's unanimous. We're out of the local Board of Health. We next have 3 public hearings. Will you introduce the first public hearing, please, Karen?
Yes, public hearing, South Queensbury Volunteer Fire Company Inc.'s incurrence of tax-free financing for firehouse renovation/construction costs.
All right, I see some South Queensbury officials here and a volunteer fire company, and we have spent a long time on this. 6 years? 7? All right, well, we've gone back and forth. We know that South Q needed upgrades, perhaps a new building. We wanted to investigate all those possibilities, and we did. And we thought that the best thing to do, the most cost-effective, and would still satisfy most of South Queensbury and the citizens of Queensbury's interests, would be to renovate, for the most part, with some new construction. And So they've gone to the bank, and they're estimating that this may be up to $2,500,000. And they're also asking and requesting tax-exempt financing. And they'll receive that if the town board approves this tonight, and there is a public hearing on this tonight. So, so the fire company has received a commitment from Glens Falls National Bank and Trust Company for a $2,500,000 loan to provide funds for the renovations to the firehouse. Okay. Is there anybody here? I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak to this proposal tonight? All right, anybody in Zoom? And anybody watching YouTube, call in. Phone's here. All I need is you have to have some kind of caller ID come up on that screen. 761-8225, area code 518-761-8225. All right, while we're waiting for any activity on public hearing, whether it's here, on Zoom, or YouTube, any town board thoughts, questions? There are members of the South Queensbury Volunteer Fire Department present.
Well, I think we've met and spoke about this many, many times.
Well, we
so,
have.
It's glad to see that it's coming to some fruition for them in terms of getting this going.
I agree, and I think they agree. All right. Hearing no interest to speak to this matter come from the public, I will entertain a resolution to approve. Oh, I'll close the public hearing if I hadn't. Resolution to approve, Councilperson Freer,
Yes.
seconded by Councilperson McGee. A roll call vote on this, please, Karen.
Sure, Councilperson Stroud?
Yes.
Bedivere?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, Freer?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Good luck, guys. I'll give the bank a call and tell them that everything's okay and it's a go, all right? All right. Next public hearing, please, Karen.
Sure. Public hearing amendment to ordinance number 30 concerning increase in building permit process fees.
All right. So every so often, we need to increase the fees to cover our costs. We don't make money on this. We actually still lose money on it. Some of the proposed fees, I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll give you a sample. They have been public. I will give the public a chance to speak to this. I just want to give some samples. For inspection or an application fee for a deck or porch, currently is 20 cents per foot, with a minimum fee of $125. Proposed is 23 cents per foot with a minimum fee of $140. A cell tower was $150. This is proposing $165. A shed was $75. This is proposing $85. A pavilion, canopy, carport was $75. This is raising it to $85. Demolition was $150. This is proposing $165. Commercial projects, a new building heated, it was 30 cents per square foot. This is proposing 35 cents per square foot. All right, that gives you an example. They're small increases, and they're meant to help cover the costs. They don't cover them entirely, but they help cover the costs that are involved here. Our fee structure is very low compared to other municipalities. So there is a public hearing, but before I begin the public hearing, any thoughts or comments from the town board? All right, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody here tonight that would wish to speak to the proposed ordinance number 30 and subsequent amendments concerning increase in fees associated with town building permit process? No one present? Anyone on Zoom? Anybody through YouTube? Anything I should know about? All right. I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion to approve.
Now it's something to know about.
What's that?
I said not yet when you said anything you should know about, and now I'm saying now it's something you should know about.
Oh, okay.
And that is the draft resolution and the final resolve requires publication of a copy of the amendment in the Post-Star. If you want to do that, that would require publication of the attached schedule also. The town clerk's a little hesitant to do that only because of the complexity of the schedule. It's up to the town board. If you want to do that, I'm sure the town clerk's office will come up with a way to do it. Or if you would prefer, you could change the word amendment to resolution in the final resolve, in which case we would only have to publish the resolution and not the actual schedule. It's entirely up to you.
Again, just what exactly are you proposing?
I'm not proposing anything. I'm pointing out that the town board has an option here.
Yes.
The way the resolution is written, it requires publication of a copy of the amendment in the Post-Star. That would mean including publication of this rather busy chart. That's fine if you want to do that. And the town clerks expressed some hesitance about the complexity of getting the chart published. I'm sure we can come up with a way to do it if that's what you want to do. If you want to avoid publishing the chart itself, we could change the word in the final resolve from amendment to resolution, in which case all that would have to be published in the Post-Star would be the resolution itself and not the amended schedule. It's entirely up to you, and you should make the decision in part based not only on convenience of publication, but how much you feel that you want to publish the amended schedule.
All right.
It's entirely up to you. I'm just pointing out there's an option.
In summary, the last resolve, it has the word amendment. It might be of interest to the town board to scratch the word amendment and put resolution in its place, the word resolution in its place. If I understand you right, that's why I'm asking.
If you want to avoid having to publish the schedule, that's correct.
Okay. Thoughts on behalf of the town board?
I'm for resolution.
And the schedule's available on the web. Somebody could see.
They could look it up.
Yeah.
Okay. So everyone understand the amended resolution?
Yep.
Okay. And so we have, now do we have a motion to approve the amended resolution or the resolution as amended?
I'll introduce.
All right, Councilperson Medevere, seconded by Councilperson McGee. Roll call vote on this amended resolution, please, Karen.
Sure. Councilperson Medevere?
Yes.
Freer?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
McGee?
Yes.
Strauss?
Yes. And thank you, Town Council.
You're very welcome.
All right, Resolution 2.3, please, Karen.
Sure. Public hearing extension to Queensbury Consolidated Water District to serve portion of Mountain Terrace Estate subdivision and out-of-district parcel.
All right, this is for a lot that's going to be subdivided into two lots up off of Luzerne Road. It is not in a water district and wishes to be. I talked to our water superintendent, Chris Harrington. He says, we got plenty of water, it's no problem. All right, so what we're going to do tonight is we will hold the public hearing on this matter, and we could close it or leave it open, but we're not going to take any action on this. The planning board is going to do its review, and it's going to do a seeker review. So we will wait for the planning board to do its review and its seeker review, and then it will come back for final approval to the town board. Okay? So, and again, it's to serve, 4 lots of the proposed 6-lot Mountain Terrace Estate subdivision. And they have a map plan and report and everything else that they have presented, and the planning board will go over that. And like I said, I talked to Water Superintendent Chris Harrington. He certainly doesn't have a problem with this. So, any thoughts on behalf of the town board before I open the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing on this concerning extension of Queensbury Consolidated Water District to serve a portion of Mountain Terrace Estate subdivision and an out-of-district parcel. And they want to connect to the subdivision to either the 16-inch Water District water main that runs along Luzerne Road or the 6-inch main on Twin Mountain Drive, as specifically set forth and described in the plan and report. All right. Any public thoughts or comments on the matter from Zoom, YouTube? Anybody present? All right. We're not going to act on this. We'll leave the public hearing open. And we'll move on to the next item. That's it for public hearings. Okay, next is we have 13 resolutions. I say 13. Those of you that have the agenda, you are probably seeing 14. We're going to pull 4.2 and deal with it another day. So I will go through and describe the other 13 resolutions. And if you have any questions, thoughts, or concerns, you're welcome to raise those after I briefly describe the 13 resolutions before the town board tonight. If you have other concerns that may not be related to the resolutions but related to the town, I'll give you that opportunity after we deal with the resolutions, okay? This part of the meeting pertains to just the 13 resolutions before the board. So I'll go through and describe each one after Karen introduces them. So Karen, 4.1.
Sure. Resolution adding West Summit Way to list of town private driveways and road names.
All right, part of the 911 system requires that even these long driveways be named. And so they're proposing the West Summit Way. It's a private driveway located off of Nature's Way, which is located off of Tut Hill Road, to the town's list of private driveways and road names. 4.2 we pulled. 4.3, please, Karen.
Resolution authorizing settlement agreement between Town of Queensbury and Civil Service Employees Association, Inc. regarding Eugene Ward.
All right, this is arranging for Mr. Ward to take the position of heavy equipment operator. 4.4.
Resolution authorizing engagement of Penflex, Inc. Service Award Program Specialist to provide administration and support services for 2020-21 and provisions of 2020 standard year-end services.
All right, Penflex has traditionally managed our LoSAP, that's a length of service award program for our volunteer firefighter. It's like a retirement program for them. And this is to allow Penflex to administrate it for us. So it's $13,600 for administering the standard and distribution service fees, and $345 to do the New York State Length of Service Award Program audit package, for a total of $13,945. 4.5.
Resolution authorizing one-year extension of Massachusetts Life Insurance Company, Mass Mutual, to continue as administrator for Town of Queensbury's deferred compensation plan.
All right, this deferred compensation plan for employees that wish to partake in it has little to do with this town board. It's up to the individuals. It's like a 401k plan. It's a retirement plan. They can take it. They don't have to take it. But by consensus, we've been doing the Massachusetts Life Insurance Company, Mass Mutual, to administrate the deferred compensation plan. This is a resolution to do that for another year. 4.6.
Resolution authorizing 2020 application for funds from New York State Office of Children and Family Services.
All right, this is a resolution approving the go-ahead for the town of Queensbury's Director of Parks and Recreation, Steve Lovering, that to apply for funds from the New York State Office of Children and Family Services related to town recreation program. This is for $3,375, and we usually get it every year. This town board has to approve applying for it, and it supports our youth programs. Some of the programs as a result of this are free, but some of them are reduced prices because of this. So this is a resolution to approve going ahead applying for those funds. 4.7,
Resolution authorizing advertisement of bids for sale of obsolete equipment.
all right, this town equipment labeled obsolete, a Pitney Bowes Model 1250 mail opener, office trailer Ridge Road, a Kodak A4 flatbed accessory standard. These will go to govdeals.com to dispose of and see if we can get any money for them. If the town board approves 4.7. 4.8,
Resolution authorizing local tourism promotion and convention development agreements between Town of Queensbury and certain organizations.
all right, we've had limited occupancy funds this year, and we have limited requests for occupancy tax funds. But there are some determined to go ahead. The Underdog Race, the Gurney Lane Snowshoe and Fat Tire Day, which has been postponed till the end of January, and if they have the event, they would like us to help fund $1,500 of that. Warren County Safe and Quality Bicycle Organization, also known as their new name, they're trying to rebrand themselves and have something shorter and sweeter. So they're calling themselves the Adirondack Cycling Advocates, but they're asking for $5,000, and what they would like to do with that $5,000 is improve the signage on our bikeways, especially the signage along and including connections to the Warren County Bikeway and so forth. So they would like to put signage up that better directs the users of these trails to where they are and where they're going and where they can go. And they would also like to help the Park and Rec further develop a stretch. It's actually an interconnection of the single-track system and the Rush Pond system, which we're getting a lot of accolades about that. So they want to help do the following things with $5,000. Warren County Historical, they have programs that they're doing that they're located on Gurney Lane in the town of Queensbury, and this is to help programming. West Mountain School, they're having activities for the Special Olympics there, regional Special Olympics there, and this is $5,000 to help in the promotion and help secure those activities to happen. So this is an allocation of those four, to those four organizations for the reasons I stated. 4.9,
Resolution authorizing agreement between Town of Queensbury and Tri-County Literacy Center, Inc.
all right, Tri-County Literacy, an offshoot of Literacy New York Greater Capital Region, to provide literacy services to adults. And this is, they have asked for amount of money. We've agreed to give them $7,500 that will help them in their literacy program, local literacy program. 4.10,
Resolution authorizing promotion of Claude Terreno from heavy equipment operator HEO to working supervisor in Town Highway Department.
all right, there's a vacancy in the working supervisor's position, and Claude Troiano is a current heavy equipment operator and he's requested the promotion. We've been evaluated, and we think he's appropriate for that position as a working supervisor. 411,
Resolution authorizing agreement between Town of Queensbury and Direct Energy Business Marketing, LLC, DBA Direct Energy Business for power sale natural gas through MEGA program.
all right, this is for $3.80.4 for 1 million per 1 million British thermal units. In case you're interested, and that's about 28.3 cubic meters. Now, how's that compared to last year? It's a little bit less. So we can tie into this for 2 years. And I said, I think we should do it. So this is to capture the gas price, which last year was almost $3.85 per British therm. This is a little bit cheaper. A little cheaper is better. I say we go with it. 412,
Resolution authorizing acceptance of donation of boulders from the Fort Miller Company, Inc. towards construction of Halfway Brook Trail.
yeah, let me read to you. I want to thank Fort Miller Company. We needed some boulders for accents. We needed some boulders to try and prevent unauthorized motor vehicles from using the newly almost completed Halfway Brook Trail. People are already using it. It's not legally technically open yet. Until the city approves everything, we still got to put signage up. And we have a letter that's going out to some of our local residents. But I wanted to share what I said to Fort Miller Company, that please share with Fort Miller Company our heartfelt thanks here in the town of Queensbury for your donation. Again, they donated, $960 worth of boulders. Your donation helped create, which is already a hugely popular community amenity, the Halfway Brook Trail. Your boulders, both beautiful and functional, are providing a very nice accent to the trail, and I will make sure that your donation gets recognized on the trail's thank you signage. I am paying for the thank you signage. I'm done creating the thank you signage. I hope I didn't forget anybody. But it's what I did for the Rush Pond Trail, and I'm doing the same thing, and so there'll be another resolution before this board once we find out the price of the thank you sign. The last one was $600. I'm hoping this isn't much more. But that's how much I appreciate the community and everybody in the community who helped do this. It's like Glens Falls, the city of Glens Falls and the town of Queensbury worked together to create this trail. And like I said, the public is loving it already. But again, we have donations. Richard Skimmelhorn, we already had the resolution where we deeply appreciated his donations to make this trail happen, and without him, it wouldn't have happened. So again, I want to repeat my thank you to Richard Skimmelhorn and what he does for the community. And this one here is thanking the Fort Miller Company. 413.
Resolution to amend 2020 budget.
Okay, there are some big ones in here. Drainage to the highway department. You know, I got to give Dave Duell credit and his team, the highway department team. You know, one of the big things, and I know that the council people here at this table will confirm, one of the biggest complaints we get is stormwater, especially after a major storm event. Everyone's got the flooding here or there, and some of it's caused by the town. And so we try and remediate this, but there are literally, you know, I'm going to say figuratively, 100 at any one time. Well, Dave is trying to pound away and get as many of these fixed as he can. He did run over budget. The next one is consultant services. COVID has cost us a little bit extra, and that's to cover the extra costs of COVID, the $20,000, mostly IT stuff. The one where we have the wages for $20,000, that's because we have a new position in the cemetery. We won't fully incorporate that position into our budget until next year. It was created this year, so money's being set aside to cover that. Next year, you won't see these set-asides for this. That's what the $20,000 is. The health insurance, that's a little bit extra for, you know, compliance. And the one down below, the $10,000 is for going towards our new trailer. So those are things that, you know, as a budget, it's fluid, it's dynamic, things happen we didn't anticipate. You can't anticipate with the million things that this town had going on at any one time. So you have to go with the flow. And that's why we have these almost every meeting budget adjustments. So the big ones I do usually explain, the little ones I usually don't bother. And the last, 414, please, Karen.
Resolution approving audit of bills, warrants of 12/1/2020 and 12/8 of 2020.
All right, run dates of December 1st and December 3rd, and payment dates of December 1st and December 8th, totaling $335,319.25 and $454,173.07 respectively. Okay, any thoughts on the town board before I ask the public if they have any thoughts on any of the resolutions before us tonight?
Full disclosure, I'm a trustee member of the Warren County Safe and Quality Bike Organization / Adirondack Advocates that
Yes,
is addressed in 4.8.
As am I. Yep, thank you. All right, anybody have any thoughts, comments on the 13 resolutions before us tonight? Present? Zoom? YouTube? YouTube, 518-761-8225. Okay. Not hearing any interest on behalf of the public. Are there any other resolutions? Keep in mind, we pulled 4.2. Are there any of the resolutions that you would wish to have pulled for roll call?
No.
Okay. Then resolutions 4.1, 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, 4.8, 4.9, 4.10, 4.11, 4.12, 4.13, 4.14. Who would like to put those forward for approval?
No move.
Moved by Councilperson Ferone, seconded by Councilperson McGee. Roll call vote on those 13 resolutions, please, Karen.
Councilperson Freer?
Yes.
Ferone?
Yes.
McGee? Yes. Straugh?
Yes.
Medevere?
Yes.
All right, they all pass. Any correspondence?
No.
All right, thank you, Karen. Privilege of the floor. This is for anybody that has a question or a thought they'd like to share with us that's town-related. This is your opportunity to do so. Is there anybody present? Anybody on Zoom? Anybody YouTube? Anybody wish to call in? Area code 518-761-8225. The Bills game started. All right, I don't hear any interest in the public to talk about other town issues. So I will go to town board discussions. Tony, anything?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
All right, Harrison?
So, I don't want to get you started on the Halfway Brook Trail yet, but we should mention that horses are not allowed. Last time I was down there walking, there was a horse taken to the trail, and after your discussion with me, we should not be having horses riding on the Halfway Brook Trail. Is that correct?
That's correct, and thank you for bringing it up and reminding the public, because they've been there regularly 4 times that I know of.
Okay, I didn't want to get you started.
All right.
I think Amanda's going to talk a little bit about school and testing in an activity, since she's closer to that problem, and I understand that. I'm very happy that it was warm Friday night as we entertained many people in cars at the event, and especially the folks that helped out with that. My thanks, but I know that you are going to talk about that too. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Harrison. George?
Let's talk about the Halfway Brook Trail. No, I just wanted to say that living near there, I mean, I'm just amazed at how many cars are parked in the parking lot, how many people are on that trail. And I know it's not like a 100% complete, but people are taking advantage of it. And probably could not come at a better time because people are looking to do things outdoors. Even with the little chilly weather, people are out there with their coats and walking, so it's worked out very well. I had a question, I don't know, through this course of this meeting, it dawned on me, and it's a question for council. And that is, what if, as we hear about every day we're faced with COVID and people getting ill and whatnot, what would happen if 3 of us on this board all of a sudden were unavailable? How would we be able to continue to do business? Are we allowed to, through Zoom or whatever, participate?
Absolutely.
Oh, we could?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The governor's emergency orders dating all the way back to March, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, 'cause I
And
already
actually,
did
that's what
when
most,
I was in-
that's what most municipalities are doing, actually.
right.
This is one of the few municipalities that's gathering live.
Okay, well, that's good. Thank you. That's it for me.
All right, thank you, George.
All right.
Amanda?
Okay, so I have 3 kids in Queensbury, and it came to our attention that there were people concerned about an email requesting permission to test kids. So I'm going to give a couple of website addresses as I talk about this. Queensbury Schools, on their site, queensbury-school.org/yellow-testing-information. And the other one I'll reference is the New York State Cluster Initiative, and that can be found at forward.ny.gov/cluster-action-initiative. So the email that went out is in the event that Warren County is designated as a yellow zone. A yellow zone designation requires that the Warren County 7-day infection rate be at 3.5% or higher for 10 consecutive days, combined with a 7-day average positivity rate of 15 people. As of the 1st of this month, our 7-day rate was 1.2%, and our 7-day average positivity was 5.6 people. So we're below, and right now it's looking like maybe we didn't have what we thought we would post-Thanksgiving. If we are designated as a yellow school, as a yellow zone, schools must test 20% of in-school students. As an example, my 3 kids are fully remote, so they're doing all of their kids online. Those kids would not participate in this. When my kids went officially remote, we no longer did the WellPoint check-in, which is each morning before kids go to school, you take their temperature and you answer the questions that I think we've all gotten accustomed to. Have you been outside of the area? Anyone exhibiting signs? So 20% of in-school students would have to be tested. 20% of teachers and staff would need to be tested over a 2-week period, which went to your question, George, about. So I'm not exactly sure how they accomplish that. The Queensbury schools are working with the Department of Health and Warren County Public Health. There would be a plan for on-site testing. It is the shorter swab. It's only in the front of the nose. It's very quick. Results are within 15 minutes. Currently, the plan would be if we were designated yellow, if we did the on-site testing, if a child was tested, if they got a positive test, the parents would be called. Otherwise, it would probably be a text response. Testing is not mandatory. So families who choose not to give the school permission to do these random tests, it will not preclude their kids from going to school. However, if we were designated yellow and they did not have enough permission granted to achieve the 20% of in-school student testing, then we'd have a problem. It's a lot of ifs. As a parent and a town board member, I'm very pleased with the transparency that the school is offering. If you go on that site that I said for Queensbury schools, the superintendent and one of the principals, I believe, did a small video so you can see what the swab is like. My youngest daughter had to be tested a few weeks ago. This happened at her pediatrician. It was nothing like the test 4 months ago with my older daughter. So they have come a long way. But I would say if anyone is concerned, I think Queensbury School is ready and willing to answer any questions. And I feel grateful for our Department of Health. That's me.
Oh, good, thank you very much. All right, Amanda. All right, I guess it's me. On the topic, it's a segue to it made me think while you were talking and I was listening, is that I had a recent webinar with New York State, and it was on our duties, the town's municipal duties generate, not just the town of Queensbury, in our enforcement of the COVID mandates and so forth. And so while we're talking to the state people, and everyone all over the state is on this webinar, they make the comment of the outstanding job that Janelle Jones is, the Director of Public Health here at the county, and Ryan Moore, the administrator for the county, is doing in terms of reporting and administering the COVID crisis here locally. They say Warren County is standing far and above most of the other counties. And so, and the credit was due to the efforts of Janelle and Ryan. So I wanted to pass that on. All right, what do I have in my little folder here? Friday evening, we had Candy Cane Lane drive-through. In response to the COVID crisis, normally what we do, we have the Santa Claus, we have the lines, the activity center here, the town office building is wall-to-wall families, parents and kids, and a good time. But this is COVID. So Craig Brown and some others organized, put together a committee to see, can we still have a holiday event that people can enjoy and it's safe? And they did a great job. Friday night, we didn't know how it would go over. This was new, absolutely new. Never done this before in terms of the town of Queensbury. And they titled it the Candy Cane Lane. And cars drove through, and there were various activities and such. None of it was hands-on. None of it was getting out of the car. It was all people driving around the car. Most of it was visual. Hayes and Hayes donated all kinds of things in bags that they were giving out, and everyone was gloved, everyone was masked, and people stayed in their cars. And then at the end of the line, Santa, and I know some of the town board members were here, right? Harrison, you were here? And you were at the beginning of that, directing traffic?
No, I was handing out Christmas Santa letters
All
that
right.
people were filling out in the car.
And we were taking the Santa letters. So between you and me, they had filled them in, huh? So, and we had gifts, you know, that had been pre-wrapped, and there were little stuffed bunnies and things like that that we were giving out. And all of it was done with gloved hands, masks, cars going by. And the adults said, thank you very, very much to the town of Queensbury. And I wanted to give credit where credit is due. So hopefully we don't forget anybody, not necessarily in any particular order of importance. Warren County Sheriff's Department, I would like to thank them for helping with traffic flow coming out of the town and at the Bay-Haviland Road intersection. I want to thank them. Our fire police, Queensbury Central, they help direct traffic coming in from Haviland, Bob Suckman and Crystal Burlingame. Mike Palmer suggested them, and thank goodness they showed up. Harrison Freer and Veronica Stillman handed out letters for Santa. Mickey Hayes and Mike Cantiello and crew handed out hundreds of goodies from the Cool Beans stop. Dick Jones was here with a truck from Queensbury Central Fire Department. He had about a crew of 10 handing out candy canes and helmets for the kids. Patricia Mickey Backen from Fidelis Care was here with goodies and personal care items. Maria Gagliardi shared arts and crafts items with the children. Mr. Twisty, Chad Curran, had balloon animals for all of them. Jim Landers, Tammy's husband, helped Mr. Twisty. Jessica LaLuna and Tammy Landers gave out gift cards from Stewart's and entered everyone in the candy guessing game. So there are over 500 tickets were handed out for this contest, one per person. Laura and Dean Moore had hot, fresh popcorn for all, and they also provided for all the canopy lighting. Pat Mellon and his crew were here from the Brave Bay Ridge Fire Department with a truck and helped light the area for Santa Claus. Terry and I helped Santa Claus. Richard Sporl was Santa Claus. Betsy Brown was Mrs. Claus. So I always say, too, okay, we got Santa Claus, his first name, Santa, Claus, his last name. Okay, fine. And then we have Mrs. Claus. Well, what's her first name?
Betsy.
Okay, well, just a question I threw out there. Celia Brown was in costume as Littlefoot, the abdominal snowman. Thanks to Dave Duell and his crew for getting the parking lot opened back up so we had room for everybody. The canopies were provided by the Park and Rec Department. Steve Lovering, Gary Crossman, Mark Collier, Tammy and Jim Landers, Laura and Dean Moore, Colleen Rathbun all helped. Chuck Rice and his crew, Fran Colvin, Jack Hicks were on for the whole, and they were decorated. The whole back area was all decorated with lights. I've never seen anything like it. It was wonderful. So sponsors, in addition to those that Mr. Twisty, Fidelis, Bay Ridge, Queensbury Central, Cool Beans, we want to thank them. Also, Marshall and Sterling, The Tavern, Speedway, Red Lobster, Stewart's, Bay Meadows, Fig and Bomb Cleaners, Hoffman Car Wash, The Harvest Restaurant, Pirates Cove, Walmart, Freihoffers, all helped out. And again, a thank you for the Building and Grounds, Chuck Rice, and also those that helped Chuck get this event and made this happen. We couldn't have done it without them. Chuck Rice, Jessica LaLuna, Tammy Landers, Terry Ross, Ted Bigelow, Veronica Stillman, Laura Moore, Karen Dwyer, Sonny Sweet, Maria Gagliardi. All right, and Craig Brown. He didn't include himself, but he's the one that came to me and he said, John, some of us would like to do a holiday event. Would you approve it? I said, well, it depends. Why don't you tell me how you're going to organize it and run it by me, and let's see. And this is what they ran by me, and I approved it, and I thought it was great, and I think the whole community enjoyed it. Big thank you. It was a huge event. If you were here, you know what I'm talking about. If you weren't, we didn't know how big this was going to be. But it started at 6. I got here at 5:30, and the cars were already queuing. Yeah. See, we had made it. So, okay, well, we're going to have 30 cars here. So we put it up so that they would queue on campus. But there must have been 200 cars. And they were queued all the way down Haviland Road. You see them go up the hill, out of sight. We stayed here until about the last car. We ran out of stuff. But Santa was still there. And so it was a wonderful thing. All right. Next year, I'm hoping we're back to normal. I hope life is back in normal, and I'm not the only one that shares that thought, am I? Okay, I got a letter from Brian Bear, the YMCA, thanking us for the donation of $6,000 for our 2020 summer camp program. Your annual support allows us to provide camper scholarships and underprivileged children living in the Queensbury area a chance to attend Camp Chapontuck. our YMCA Summer Day Camp. Well, thank you, Brian, for all that you do. We appreciate it, too. Discover the Northeast's best mountain biking trails. Well, guess who gets mentioned? Queensbury. We're in the list of the Northeast best mountain biking trails. I think Harrison mentioned how busy Halfway Brook Trail has been, and it's not really officially open, and it's hugely busy, but the Rush Pond Trail is hugely busy. But if you go up to Gurney Lane, where you see the hiking and mountain biking trails there, they're busy. So we get mentioned, that we aren't alone. There are other, Bear Park, Highland Mountain Bike and Fair, but here we are, Gurney Lane Mountain Bike Trail, Queensbury, New York. Has 13 miles of single track and double track trails over 152 acres of land. Easy, intermediate, difficult signs steer readers towards the best trail for their skills. And it goes on. All right, well, I've got to thank the Park and Rec Department. They've done a great job with those Gurney Lane mountain bike trails. Skip that one. Skip that. Yeah, you'll start to see these signs go up. No motorized vehicles, unauthorized motorized vehicles, are allowed in the lower watershed. This is a Glens Falls rule, and part of the partnership we have had with Glens Falls in developing the Halfway Brook Trail, we've agreed to help them do something they've been trying to do for decades. It has never been legal to have an unauthorized motor vehicle in that lower watershed. When I say lower watershed, I'm talking about what you call Potter's Woods. All right, because it goes between Potter Road and Peggy Ann Road. It goes to the west, on West Mountain Road, to the east, to Dixon Road, Valley Forge, and so forth. That whole thing is the lower watershed. Motorized vehicles are not allowed in any part of that. Unauthorized motorized. No dumping. So we're going to help the city. We promise to help the city to abide by rules that they have had forever. Some people abide by and some people don't. Well, we're going to make the effort. It's a $950 fine. Not only that, but some of the motorized vehicles are upset that we have this beautiful Halfway Brook Trail, and they're trying to tear it up. All right, they're spinning their tires. What we did, we put item 4 down. We compacted the item 4. It makes a great walking service. Free, very easy to walk. No ticks. Ticks don't like that kind of surface. It's healthy to walk. It's easy to walk, and some of them are trying to tear it up. All right, some of this is next Monday. Here's one from Ron Hoffman. Dear Mr. Stroud, as an enthusiast mountain biker, I want to say thank you for all the trail development in Gurney Lane and now Rush Pond. It seems to be getting better and better each year. And he goes on. Thank you, Ron. All right, the public appreciates those trails, and I think during time of COVID, they've realized it's great to get out of the house. It's great to get some exercise. We're all developing these COVID guts. I'm guilty. But one way of helping resolve that is to get out and do some walking, some running, enjoy the environment outdoors, and even cold weather and rainy weather. You know what? I'm seeing people out there. you'll see me on the Rush Pond Trail or the Halfway Brook Trail frequently. And some people recognize me, and they thank me. And I said, well, thank the town board, and thank they're very dedicated to trying to provide a great quality of life for our residents here in the town of Queensbury. I think the town board works very hard to do that. So, good for you guys. All right, so if there's nothing else, we'll call it a day here. Is there anything else for the good of the order? All right, well, then I'd like to thank Town Council Mark Shackner, Deputy Town Clerk Karen O'Brien, the Town Board, Peter Pape Productions, Joel Barlow, Jesse Jackson, Look TV, and thank you, everybody, for attending. Appreciate that. And we'll see you at a regular town board meeting. We have a workshop next Monday, and following that, on December 21st, we have another town board meeting. All right, so a motion to adjourn? Okay, made by Councilperson McGee, seconded by
Second.
Councilperson Perone. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
We're now adjourned. Ooh.
So, how are you feeling? You're looking better.
He's independent.
What are they
One
going
of
to
the
do?
reasons we got him, they didn't want anybody that they already know in DOE.
I hear you.
Syracuse,